welcome to the Seasons of Justice podcast from the West Midlands Racial Justice Initiative. I'm Kevin Thompson, and today we'll be exploring what racial justice looks like when it's applied with scrutiny, imagination, and insightful reasoning. But before we dive into today's podcast, let me introduce our guest. Ade Osunsanmi is a mechanical engineer by training with 20 years experience in logistics, procurement, and supply chain management across aerospace, automotive, food, higher education, and has spent the last 10 years of her career in procurement in the UK housing sector. Beyond her professional achievements, Ade Benpei also serves as the lay canon of Gloucester Cathedral and co-chairs the Gloucester Diocese Racial Justice Action Group with her husband and a non-executive director of the Church Development Agency. She is a mum, a wife, and has a passion for racial inclusion through education and honest questioning. Ade, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Okay, my opening question. Gloucester Diocese's Racial Justice Action Group has chosen the theme Dig Deeper, Look Closer, Think Bigger for Black History Month 2026. And it feels like more than a slogan. It sounds like an invitation to move beyond surface level celebration and into deeper racial justice work. So I wanted to ask, can you tell us why the Racial Justice Action Group chose this theme and what you hope people across the diocese will hear, feel, and do when they encounter it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. The theme was chosen to align with the UK 2026 Black History Month celebration theme, because that's what they have chosen. And we were thinking, we don't want to do something entirely different. We want to see how that applies in the kingdom of God to the Bible. The theme cuts across both secular and biblical perspectives and gives the opportunity to bring along our young people on the journey of learning. So I hope all those who encounter it will hear a call to take that next step in seeking genuine understanding, whatever that means, because everybody have got their interpretation in what genuine understanding means. Through looking beyond the surface, beyond all the niceness, all the fluffiness, to understand what else might we be avoiding to talk about, that we must talk about. So those things that we just think, no, we're scared of talking about this. So having the confidence that we can rely on the outcome, on the thinking and the reflection that the month has got to give through Christ that we serve and in the understanding of what Jesus would want us to do as his followers. So we have chosen that and thinking that it's a theme that resonates with us in the church.
Okay, thank you, Ade. I want to talk about moving beyond tokenism because there's a clear emphasis on acknowledging the contributions of Black and Brown people in a meaningful and authentic way without tokenism. And that distinction matters because many institutions can celebrate Black History Month without changing how power actually works. So what does meaningful recognition look like to you? And how can churches avoid turning Black History Month into a symbolic moment rather than a justice-rooted commitment?
From my understanding, I think meaningful recognition identifies excellence in its purest form. That is, you're not just promoting someone because you're doing them a favor, or you want to appear as if you're saving them because they deserve to be saved. For meaningful recognition to take place, there must be a why that can clearly be explained. If you cannot explain it, then it can be interpreted as tokenism. There must also be a merit. So there must be a basis for recognizing something. So there's something you're recognizing for you to be able to say, yes, this person deserves this particular recognition. So I will take us to the Bible because I think whatever we're talking about Christ. When Jesus highlighted the virtues in the widow that gave her whole in the Bible, in Luke chapter 21, verse 1 to 4, he said there was an action. There was something that the woman did. And it was based on that action that Jesus said, yeah, this woman have done better, gave her whole. And every other person around that woman could see what she has done. That recognition was meaningful. There was substance in that recognition. Mm-hmm. Also in Matthew 8, verse 5 to 10, says that truly, I haven't found anyone in Israel with such a great faith. It was talking about the centurion that just trusted Jesus to say a word. And it was because of that demonstration of great faith that Jesus acknowledged that he has never witnessed somebody like him in the whole of Israel. There was a recognition of something that he has done. So there was a substance to it. There was a merit to it. Meaningful recognition creates an environment where those who are recognized can feel safe to fail. Because if it was a meaningful recognition, then you can trust the person that have recognized you for doing what you've done. So if you fail, you will not be thinking, oh, you're going to trip over. And you will not be able to find somebody that will comfort you, because for you to be in that position in the first place, everybody thinks you don't deserve it. So you are kind of careful. But if the recognition was meaningful, you will be rest assured that you have supporters around you that can provide that emotional support, that spiritual support even, to make sure that you succeed. So I was going to give an example in relation to meaningful recognition. So the ability of some of our churches to answer questions on their ability to retain ethnic minority families who made effort to turn up at services for 6 consecutive months, but no one even tried to know their names. So if we can answer those questions, if we can delve into those questions, it will kind of show that there's work that is being done and people are not just being given accolades because they are of certain color.
Understood, thank you. Digging deeper into assumptions, the theme that the group has chosen challenges people to step out of their comfort zones and correct biased assumptions. In church context, those assumptions can often be hidden beneath politeness, tradition, or we welcome everyone type of language. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the assumptions you think churches need to dig deeper into, especially when it comes to race, belonging, leadership, and who is seen as fully part of the church?
One key assumption is about preconceived beliefs about the character of individuals or group of people because they come from certain race. There is one thing is that we humans, we try to understand the world by putting people in boxes. So we can generalize, okay, yes, this particular race or this, they behave this way, they talk this way, or this particular race, this is what they do. So it's the way we are wired as human. But in the church, if we can unpack that assumption carefully and honestly within a safe space, that can help with digging deeper and seeing beyond skin colors to improve our understanding and address our fears. The outcome may be that our churches reflect the people they serve in areas of leadership, such as the PCC, the parish council, clergy, or other leadership posts. The other assumption that I would like to see us unpack is in the improvement of the general understanding of how we got here and how we are doing with making sure history will not repeat itself. Something that is lacking is the general understanding of history across all generations. So if we can try to unpack that together, how did we get here? What can we do differently? And be intentional about changing the narratives, then I think things will change, because lack of knowledge can fuel wrong assumptions. So that's why, as a diocese, we hope both young and old can journey with us as we learn together during the Black History Month. Even now, for this 2026 Black History Month celebration, we are, as a team, the Racial Justice Action Group, we are bracing ourselves to read reflections, because it's a challenge to see what our 7 to 18-year-olds think. What can we do differently? Is hearing the voices of those young people on how we can change how we interact, how we ask questions. I would make sure that when we ask questions, we really, really want to know, not because we just want to be nice.
Okay, thank you. Just talking about asking questions, your plan speaks about daring to ask honest questions and being willing to explore further until all parties are clear. And that is powerful because racial justice work often gets blocked when people are afraid of discomfort or afraid of saying the wrong thing. So please, can you just answer, how do you encourage honest conversations about race in church spaces, especially when people may feel defensive, nervous, or unsure where to begin?
That's a very interesting question because we are from different cultures, and different cultures place emphasis on different approach to communication.
Mhm.
Every relationship thrives on good communication, not because we understand each other perfectly, but because we understand our responsibilities when it comes to communicating. So whoever is talking, in whatever way, shape, or form we communicate, it's important that we build on that. I'm going to use a saying from Isocrates that stated that there's no institution devised by man which the power of speech has not helped us to establish. So even though we may feel awkward speaking or saying honestly how we feel about particular things, that seems to be the solution. That's the only thing that we can do. That's how we can get to the bottom of it. We can read body language, we can misinterpret intentions, but until we are bold enough to gauge and ask that question, I don't think we can progress. So it's high time we make use of the power of speech. This speech is really powerful. The Bible says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. So we can choose to use the tongue to bring life as we communicate. Culture and background will play a major role in how we engage, and respect for each other's feeling will be at the very heart of our communication. But it is not good for us to sweep under the carpet how we feel. We must acknowledge our feelings. Firstly, to ourselves, then secondly, to a trusted person in a safe place, in a safe space rather, before gaining the boldness to engage truthfully, before engagement to ask honest questions. Honest conversation can be also led from the front. Vulnerability of those in leadership at how challenging it is to have honest conversations and what they do to overcome each step may help others in similar shoes to adopt their method. Having allies and critical friends can also help because we are relational beings. We learn from one another. Then when we see people that look similar to us or in similar position to us, we can learn good stuff and we can also learn bad stuff from that. But if we can develop that relationship, intentional relationship with the aim of addressing this awkwardness to discuss sensitive issues, I think we will see a change in the way we unpack, in the way we trash this issue. I wanted to use that word, but I can't find any better word than saying we need to just get over the barrier of feeling awkward when we need to speak honestly to one another.
Thank you. I want to talk about the work of RJAG, and just as a reminder to our listeners, RJAG stands for the Racial Justice Action Group, which is part of the Diocese of Gloucester. The word action is important because racial justice cannot only stay at the level of awareness or statements. So can you share more about the work of the RJAG and what it's been doing in Gloucester? And what kinds of change are you trying to build across parishes, deaneries, and the wider diocese?
Okay, the Racial Justice Action Group, which is the RJAG, we call ourselves, we are somewhat new in the diocese. We were formally constituted in January 2026 as a group of 11 people from memory. We have 5 main areas of focus. Our focus are providing support for deanery and parishes by being the critical friend on all things racial justice. We are not experts, but we can scrutinize activities in relation to racial justice. We can question why things are not going in a certain way as a team. And we also support gathering of data to target approaches for vocations and appointments. The other focus area for us is advocacy and change through reflection, celebration, and education. And the Black History Month 2026 celebration is one of those. We are also positioned to influence procedures and processes through audit activities. We also work with the diocesan communication team to make sure that we have learning materials that can easily be accessed by anybody that is interested. Each key performance action have delivery details which will be unpacked for meaningful actions in the next couple of years. So we are in place for the next 3 years. The dynamic can change, the leadership can change, the people can change. And we appreciate that these actions that I've just detailed, they are ambitious, but we know that with God, we can do all things. And what's other actions in relation to equipping our diocese in relation to unconscious bias training? So we have action in relation to making sure that we have people that can implement unconscious bias training, that can make sure that people are equipped to address those uncomfortable questions. And yes, we are very new, but we are ambitious, and we think that with our focus, we will be able to make meaningful changes.
Thank you, Ade. May I come back to you with a follow-up question? I know you mentioned about the gathering of data and auditing of actions. And I know data is something that we're trying to gather across the West Midlands in our 6 dioceses. Would you be able to speak briefly about what the early data is showing specifically for Gloucester? Do you have any revelations that you can share with us right now?
No, not at the moment, because we are at the moment relying on what the central team, so that's the RJAG, that's the West Midland Racial Justice Initiative Group, isn't it?
Yes.
It's gathering at the moment. We have provided information, but we think that we need to understand our parishes. What is the diversity profile for our parishes? And we also want to kind of monitor how that is changing in the year. But at the moment, I don't have that picture. But it's one of things for us to focus on. It's one of the things that we would need to kind of pick up and look at the detail to see how that can influence the leadership profile, the recruitment profile within our diocese. So it's an area that we have on our action, but we haven't delved into much detail into that particular one at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Ade. I want to talk about championing change locally. One of the proposed activities is for each RJAG member to act as a champion by sharing resources with key contacts in their areas of influence, including parishes, deaneries, and the wider diocese. That suggests a model where racial justice is not held by one person but carried through relationships. Can I ask, why is it important to have racial justice champions across different parts of the diocese? And what support do those champions need to keep the work active and grounded?
We have over 290 parishes with 381 churches and over 100 church schools. So with those numbers, it will be impossible for few people to deliver our ambitious plans. So we are reliant on people that would own the vision. The scope of coverage is huge, and the work that we want to do is also ambitious and huge. So it is important for people to take ownership. It is important for us to have champions, even in the community, to be able to deliver, to be able to engage and educate the way we want education to happen, also to implement. So it's not a small feat, it's huge, hence why we require those champions. So what supports do those champions need to keep the work active and grounded? They need easy access to the RJAG team. The communication team within the Diocese of Gloucester is playing a very active role in being mouthpiece, because their reach is very, very wide. So those champions would work with the communication team, so the communications team can signpost them to resources that can be used at different levels that anyone can pick up and understand. So at the moment, we are relying on our comms team to support those champions. We are relying on the strength and the experience of the Racial Justice Action Group to also support our champions.
Okay, thank you, Ade. I want to touch on children, young people, poetry and art. As part of the plans, there will be a poetry and art competition inviting children and young people aged 7 to 18 to reflect on Black and Brown individuals, histories, communities, and the wider meaning of the theme. And that feels like a beautiful way to bring imagination, learning, and justice together. So, what do you hope children and young people will discover through the poetry and art competition? And why is it important that they are part of shaping the conversation?
Okay, very interesting. When we started this, we were thinking, how can we make sure that it's not just a day in October? What can we do to make sure that this conversation continues even after October and have a memorable celebration this year? So we hope that the young people will discover what it means to look at a character in history, to understand why those characters fought for justice, their view, to understand the view of those children, of the outcome of those fight for justice, and check if they notice anything in their current daily interactions that are similar. Because history has got a way of repeating itself. But if we don't get other people to look at it, to reflect, to check their environment, what is happening, then we might not be able to make any change. We might not be able to influence the narrative and make sure things don't happen. The challenge for young people is to let us know from their point of views what we can do to make sure that such oppressive history will not repeat itself. That is the reason why we've brought them into this conversation at this stage. It is important that they are part of the conversation because they are malleable, they are changing, and they are future leaders. They will continue where we stop. And if they're not brought in on time, it might be too late to get them interested. I'm not saying they're not interested. I'm just saying that in the way we engage them at the moment, it will be a course that will last beyond my generation, providing a compass to guide us through the right path.
Okay, thank you, Ade. There's also plans to propose a celebratory service at the Cathedral in October. A cathedral gathering can be more than an event. It can be a public witness about whose stories, prayers, histories, and leadership are honoured in the life of the church. So, what would make the cathedral service feel truly celebratory, justice-centred, and representative of UKME GMH communities across the diocese?
The Cathedral event is meant to be a celebratory one, and we hope that we would have representatives across all the over 380 churches in Gloucestershire, as well as other non-Church of England churches that are in and around Gloucestershire. So we just don't want it to be another Black History Month celebration. We want to have a reflection, a period of reflection. Singing is really, really important. We are looking to invite different churches to sing. Testimonies also, because we have notable individuals in the community that can actually tell us how things have changed and any wisdom that we can take from their experience into making sure that we change the narratives. There will also be words and prayers. The full detail is they are not finalized yet. They are developing, and the Reverend Canon Craig Axley Jones will be supporting the RJAG team to make the event a memorable one. So we have a draft of what we want to happen. We are engaging and letting people know to save the dates of activities, but the actual service is still at the moment at the early stages.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk about building a reusable model. And one of the stated purposes is to develop a reusable template for future engagement with greater involvement from the wider community. And that's important because racial justice work needs continuity. It can't depend on 1 month or one event. So how do you hope the 2026 Black History Month activities will shape future racial justice work in Gloucester Diocese beyond October?
Okay, we hope that the review of the work submitted by our young people would provide insights into what our young people are thinking and what they wish for the future. The comms is out there already, so I am aware some young people are as part of their summer holiday activities. They've started looking at what they could do. So I'm hoping that we would see original piece of work coming through, original thinking and inferences and recommendations coming. I'm positive that we would get those. So we would, as a team, look at what we are getting, then we would develop a framework from that and use that framework to improve our support and how we educate our community about racial justice. So no work submitted will be discarded. Every comment, every thought will be critically looked at just to make sure that we are not missing anything. In addition to that, the top 18 art and poetry work will be on display at St. Mary the Crypt for some weeks. Duration is yet to be decided at the moment. We're thinking 3 to 4 weeks. And we hope that this display will keep us talking about Black history, the rationale behind the artwork, the rationale behind the piece of writing that made the top 18. That will be at the St. Mary the Crypt in Gloucester. We'll also review our planning, timing and delivery for this year's, including lessons learned to shape activities for 2027. So we are, as part of the plan, we are looking to have lots of takeaways that we can develop further so that we keep the conversation going, so that we keep this matter in the front of everybody, and we can change and improve our relationships in how we communicate, in how we interact, in how we change assumptions in relation to race. And I'm not saying that this one event will change all that, but it is a start, or it is the next step to continue. The issue that we're talking about has been for hundreds of years. So I'm not expecting one event in a year to change that whole narrative, but it keeps us talking. It means that we continue to work together to improve our relationship with one another, to make sure that there's justice and injustices are reduced within our community.
Thank you. And the final part of the theme for this year's Black History Month is Think Bigger, and it invites us to imagine more than awareness. It asks, what kind of church are we becoming, and whether our structures, our worship, our leadership and relationships reflect justice in practice. So, when you think bigger, what is your vision for racial justice in the church, and what would you like listeners to commit to after hearing this conversation?
We have a dedicated resource page being developed by the Diocesan Communication team. So this will be launched in due course. I want our listeners to commit to supporting young people in their sphere of influence. I'm hoping that people from Gloucestershire will be listening. If you don't belong to the Gloucestershire Diocese, you can do something within your area. Support your church to improve the quality of information that is readily available to anybody that wants to know about Black history or how they can be the change and make the change. Challenge congregation to look closer at what can be changed to make it conducive for all races to feel comfortable for one another, with one another. Because sometimes when you turn up a certain church, you just feel that I don't belong here. Not because anybody is saying anything, but because you have that feeling nobody's turning up to welcome you, and you quietly go away and hope you'll be noticed the next Sunday if you turn up. And you do that for like 6 months, and you quietly move away and nobody even bothers to check what has happened to this Black person or Black family that stopped coming to church. So it's just challenging each other to see beyond the color and treat each other as you would like to be treated, to make it conducive for all races to feel comfortable and to engage in learning activities at all levels. Because if we are intentional about learning about one another, not just reading of books alone, just be interested in people that are different to you. It's difficult, but it can be done. We tend to gravitate towards people that are similar to us. If we can step out of our comfort zones and engage with somebody that is just a little bit different, maybe we will make that change.
Okay, thank you. And as we close, for someone listening who wants to support this work, but probably doesn't know where to start, what's the one practical step they can take once everyone is back from the summer break?
So if you live in Gloucestershire, speak to your priest and ask what the plan for Black History Month 2026 is. Ask them that question. Get them to tell you what they are doing. If they don't have one, please reach out to the Gloucester Diocese Comms team, and they have lots of information to share. Also, search. You can search on Google, Big Ideas, Bold Stories, Brilliant Prizes. That is the title to find the competition that our young people, 7 to 18, will be participating in. By doing a Google search, you will find that information. To find more details on the art and poetry competition.
Okay, thanks, Ade. And I want to thank you for taking time out to appear on today's podcast and for sharing your plans for Black History Month in October. And it's great to see the intricate details of how Gloucester is aiming to move into meaningful change. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today. You've been listening to Seasons of Justice, and we look forward to you joining us again next time. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Kevin. Bye-bye.